Welcome to Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. Our song for today is Angel by Anita Baker. If I could, I'd give you the world, wrap it all around you. I won't be satisfied except a piece of this heart, my angel. Oh, angel, you're my angel. Oh, angel, dreams are dreams, and some dreams come true. I found a real dream, baby, when I found you. You're so strong, but tender too. You're my angel. Oh, angel. You're my angel. Love like ours is heaven sent. Each day a day, remember. I feel so safe, feel secure in you, with you. You give me love, you keep right on giving. You fill me up with the love you've given. When things get tough, I can always turn to you. You're my angel. Oh, angel. You're my angel. Love the way we touch, I love the way it feels. Every time you're near me, my poor heart just won't keep still. No doubt about it, this love I feel is real. Ask me to go with you, you know I will. Hold me dear and hold me tight. Only you can make it real. Only you make it right. Just let me know that I am special to you, my angel. Oh, angel. You're my angel. Oh, angel. You're my angel. Oh, angel. My angel. You're my angel. Woohoo! Hey, fam. I am Alexis Roan, aka Alexis Grace, founder of Truth Me Story LLC, expanding empathy one story at a time, and your host of Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine at Vespers. Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine at Vespers is a faith and adult storytelling series. By faith, I mean we explore the mystery of how God shows up or is perceived absent in our lived reality. And we do this exploration via the tool adult storytelling. Now, by adult storytelling, I mean stories that are told by adults, to adults, for people with a developed adult context. And for that reason, we never issue apologies for how we show up in this space. We assume that everyone is here, can handle what it means to be here. 7-year-olds have a story time, and now so do adults. You're welcome. Okay, listen, this has been a beautiful time of being with family. I've not been back to Texas for a number of years, especially during the pandemic and all of that. And I only came this time because, as you know, as many of you know, mom had surgery. She's doing great. She is hilarious. And for her birthday, about a week or so ago, I bought her a card, and on the front of it, it said, "Your black is beautiful." And then on the inside, it has like these really beautiful sentiments. And I meant all of it. But I noticed that sometimes she can just, get beside herself. Last week, she was threatening to streak us and, here in the virtual pews of Jesus Jazz and Dessert Wine. And I was like, please, beautiful 72-year-old person, do not come on the internet naked. That is not the way I want to go viral. Um, but in any case, like she's, not making those threats, but she is just kind of being fully herself. And I love it because that means that she is healing and all is well and all manner of things. But she still gets beside herself. And so now, whenever she's out of sorts, instead of like going back and forth and arguing with her, I simply pause, take a deep breath, and I say, "Mama, your black is beautiful." And then she stops. It's like all of the craziness that would happen after that fade to black. We have none of that because her black is indeed beautiful, and so is she. And so has the time over Thanksgiving being with my family and friends doing game nights and all of that. So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of different things happening. But I learned something else today that made me sad. So I'm traveling to Arizona, and my intentions were to stop off at my spiritual retreat center, Desert House of Prayer. I discovered it in 2005, December of 2005. As a matter of fact, when life was really, really um, bizarre. Life was extremely bizarre, and I did not know that silence was a thing until I happened upon the Desert House of Prayer. And ever since then, it has become a thing. Their mission or their premise for it being a silent retreat center is that they believe that your answers are always with you. You just got to be silent. And so whenever I can, I just assume that they're always going to be there. Well, got a call today from one of my mentees who has a young friend who is in the middle of some wonky things right now. And she's like, "Well, my mentor Alexis, she does these retreats, so maybe that can be something." So I was like, "Yeah, tell her go to the Desert House of Prayer." And so as I was googling it to send them the link, I got a sign that said permanently closed. And that broke my heart because I just assumed that when I'm passing through Tucson, I was going to be able to spend a couple of nights in my safe haven in the desert, my sacred place. And that is no longer the case. And I was talking with a friend about how every time I had ever gone, how meaningful it had been, and some of the meaningful practices that I attempt to incorporate in my daily life, and how helpful they were. But how sad I was that there's not a place for, we can no longer go and unplug in that place. They were really about the weary pilgrim. And life still gets weary. And where do we pilgrims go, from this point? And so I'm trying to figure some stuff out right now because it's like I gotta uh, change my whole itinerary. My whole travel schedule is gonna be all kinds of disrupted, and I don't know what it's gonna look like. But I pray for traveling grace and that the Lord goes ahead of me, and we'll figure it out when we're gonna get there. Um, but yeah, pandemics happen, life happens. Seasons of thriving and surviving, and sometimes we don't. Certain entities don't survive, and I'm sad that Desert House of Prayer was one of those casualties. It looks like of the pandemic. But there are also times that we have to kill off philosophies and belief systems. There is this one thing that I published on medium.com. I'm going to see if I can share it. No, looks like I have something else that's teed up. Go to if you pull if you, actually if you just Google Alexis Roan open letter, it'll come up. But it's called an open letter to all of the young people I ministered to in the 1990s, and it's about things that changed with me, ideologies, belief systems. Um, I was in my mid to late 20s, and I was simply passing on to them what I believed were good practices for living life. And I still believe these things, but I had to edit them. I remember going really hard on them on dating. And I was hard on them with regards to dating, and not hard like dogmatic or anything, but very direct and straight, no chaser with them, because I believed that, or I understood that you can hook up with the wrong one and it can alter your peace. Things still work out, but damn, that road, it can get rough, if you have the wrong people attached to it. And I still believe that, but I had to redact what it meant to for them to quote connect or to hook up. So one of the things I would say was, look, and it was based on like what I had always been taught. Listen, just no sex before marriage. Just don't do it. No sex before marriage. Just wait for that one, and God is going to bless you, and everything is going to be great. Now I was giving them what I thought was my reality. I was celibate and very picky about who I dated. And so when the one came along and he, hijacked my whole life. I mean, I just thought that he was an amazing person. And I married him. And that marriage was some bullshit, like straight up. And so the first part of it, I'm like, okay, now what am I in the middle of? And then once I, in the second half of it, I was like, when I realized what I was in the middle of, it was like, okay, do I stay or do I go? Can I find love for a lifetime, in this, or, will I just hurt a little more and then be sure about my decision and then just, you know, be like, okay, it's been real, fam. So I chose the latter only because I had lived enough of that madness to be able to like courageously make that decision. But in any case, it was an interesting thing to before I came to the decision to terminate that love project. What I was passing on to these girls was, be like me, be celibate, wait for the one. He's going to come and everything is going to be great. And on the other side of me terminating that love project, I had to say, okay, you know what? Life happens on life's terms. Here are the other non negotiable ways that I want to encourage you to engage life. And so instead of me saying, okay, don't have sex with anybody until you get married, because the other thing I had to tell them is like, you don't know what the sexual relationship is going to be, if it's going to be fulfilling. There are a lot of different things that are going to happen in that space anyway. I can't have that conversation with them, because they were young. But what I could say to them were four things concerning sex and sexuality. Number one, never have sex with somebody else's spouse. Just don't do it. Number two, never have sex with children, ever. Number three, never have sex with anyone who does not want to have sex with you, or if you don't want to have sex. Like that's rape, just don't do it. But then the fourth thing I said was, If you don't want diseases or children, don't have unprotected sex. So those are my like my four like non-negotiables. And then I said to them in this open letter, anything else after that, like, we can talk about it over a drink. We can talk about it. And one on one about what that could look like for you. But those are my non-negotiables, and they just look very different from don't have sex with anyone other than your spouse. I also feel very firmly about that with them because there are so many people who believe like I did that, like, I'm going to wait for the one, I'm going to wait for the one, I'm going to wait for the one. And then what happens when you're waiting and you're now 40 and the one still has not materialized? Then what? That is the ride that we're about to go on today. The story that we're about to hear today, I call it the Immaculate Conception. And I love all of its layers and all of its dips and all of the ways that, there's just so much that's happening. And then we're going to have a special guest. Fam, sit back and take this in. And please receive the storyteller, our featured storyteller today, uh, on the terms in which she comes. With that, please welcome Michele Elizaga as she dresses her truth in story. Okay, I keep getting a word that we cannot hear this one. Hang on 1 second. Let me try. I have a special guest for you. I don't know what's going on with this thing, but don't leave me. Here we go. Let's try again.
I was, I am a first generation Filipino American. I was raised in a Christian home, going to church early on at a fundamental independent Baptist church every Sunday morning, night, and Wednesday evening. Uh, that didn't last forever. Along the way, we moved around so much. I was born in Ohio. We moved around so much and ended up back in Ohio for high school and college. But the church was definitely a big part of my upbringing, as was being a first generation Filipino American. My parents came here to give us the life that they couldn't give us in the Philippines. And so I had aspirations to have a great career and have a husband and a family. So, and along with that, I definitely held on to the beliefs that my husband was going to be the head of the household and he would lead our family and that would be the way that it was. So I had a boyfriend in high school and college, and I have not had a boyfriend since college. So that being said, I have tried I was doing the online dating before it was even a thing, very early on, when it was just starting out and taboo. I tried it then. I've tried it recently. I have just not met anyone. And a couple of years ago, leading up to my 40th birthday, I was single and had tried some dating around that time too, in anticipation of my 40th birthday. My birthday is in January, so the beginning of every year. I am just sure that that's going to be the year that I'm going to meet someone. Um, and so, leading up to my 40th birthday, I believed that there was something great to come. And so much so that I scheduled the most epic trip to Costa Rica. I actually specifically asked God to spend my 40th birthday on foreign soil. Scheduled a trip with my best friend to Costa Rica, and I woke up the morning of my 40th birthday and I went out and laid. Well, first, I looked out at the ocean. We had a balcony looking out over the ocean, and I just laid in the hammock, just really reflecting on my life. And in that reflection and in that gratitude over my life, I just really had a strong sense from God that something big was coming for me. Um, and so we finished off that amazing epic trip, and I journaled about it. I held that in my heart. I believed it. A couple of months later, there were some things going on at work. I decided to pursue my real estate license for more opportunities. My best friend had always wanted to be a real estate agent. She signed up. We did this together. I thought, this must be it. I'm about to change my career into real estate with my best friend. This will be amazing and exciting. Here's this big thing. Well, that finished real estate school, but nothing really came about with that. Some other opportunities happened at work and I didn't use it. And come July, it was Father's Day. I went over to my other best friend's house to catch up with her. We hadn't seen each other in a while, so it was just a Sunday evening, sitting on her sectional, drinking wine, catching up on all the things of life. And because it was Father's Day, I started out my part of the conversation with, yeah, so my day, I journaled this morning, processed more of my daddy issues. And I also said to her that I would just love a family to do it differently for them. And I thought nothing of it, just said that to her. We continued talking about everything else that was going on in our lives. She was filling me in on hers. And by the end of our time together, I'd work the next day and I need to get going home. She felt very strongly that she had to share something with me and said that there's something really weighing heavy on me right now that I just have to say to you. And the first thing she said was just some beautiful, profound wisdom about my family and just my relationship with them. It resonated. I was touched. I thanked her for that. And then she looked at me and said, and the other thing I need you to know is you can be a mom. And when she said it, this was my response. Like it had come. It was so out of left field and yet it hit something so deep in me that my immediate response was just tears. And I truly looked at her and was like, what? And she just kept talking. She said, you can be a mom. You don't need a husband. You're not going to do it alone. And I'm just crying. And I even said to her, I'm like, what are you saying? And she just said a lot of things that I just needed to hear and didn't realize I needed to hear because the other part of my story is I had been waiting for this husband, and as the years went by, I had even given up on being a mom. Like, being a mom wasn't something, I wasn't one of those people that was like, I was destined to be a mom. That's going to happen. I just knew that I wanted to be married, um, and have a family. But as the years went on, it was like, okay, I guess I'll just settle for just a husband, because how can I'm just getting older. I don't know if I can have a baby. I don't know if I can do this. And so for her to say that, and just the response from the depths of me to be that, um, just really, there aren't any words to it. And all I know is I left there still kind of disoriented. That's what it was. It was very disorienting. I left her house pretty disoriented, and yet so sure of what she was saying. And I said to her, "This is just so weird. I don't know why you said that. I don't know why I responded the way I did, but I'm just going to go home and sleep on it, see how I feel in the morning." And I went home, I slept on it, and I literally woke up the next morning with just front and center, baby, 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 baby. And I knew I had to pursue it. And I immediately started doing research and found two different websites of women who have done this. This is not a new thing. Um, these women had grown children, that had founded these organizations. One is Single Moms by Choice, the other is Choice Moms. And that helped me to realize this was possible. And then I knew I had to research fertility clinics. Actually, one of the websites had a little pamphlet that outlined some steps as far as, um, even researching sperm banks and, looking for a sperm donor. So I just started taking those steps, and just so sure of it. And also, just trusting that if this truly was to be, that it was going to happen. And as I started taking the steps, there just was no roadblocks. It just kept moving forward. I found a fertility clinic to go to. I had to undergo various tests to make sure I could receive a sperm donor. Receive donor sperm. We checked how many eggs I was producing. Like, everything just kept checking off. I started researching sperm banks, and actually started looking for a sperm donor, and nothing felt right. And I did think that I was reaching a roadblock of, okay, I'm not just gonna randomly pick donor sperm. But as I continued to just pray on it and do my research, peace led me to the right donor. And I purchased this sperm. I remember having meeting up with one of my favorite couples for wine that night, and we literally toasted to cheers to sperm donor. And another thing I need to add is that I I had made a lot of big life changes, and had basically drained my savings account and was building it back up again. So I only had about $5,000 in my account. The sperm was about 1,000. And the procedure, which was called an IUI, an intrauterine insemination, different than in vitro fertilization, which costs a lot more and is much more involved. The cost I was getting from the fertility clinic for the tests and the procedure, it all added up to be around 3,500, 4,000, like between $3,000 and $5,000, which is about exactly what I had in the bank. Which seemed wild to think that I was just going to drain my bank account to do this, and doing this was bringing on another human being in the world who has a lot of expenses that come with them. But I just knew, and I had to do it. I had to move forward with it. So that being said, the fertility doctor had told me that the chances of me having a baby on the first go were very low. And he advised me to purchase multiple vials of sperm and to prepare for multiple um, cycles of the insemination. I let him know I only had enough for one vial and one IUI cycle. And he also told me that he advised me to take a hormone that would increase my egg production. So to stimulate more eggs. So again, that would increase the likelihood of getting pregnant. The other side of that is it could also increase the chance to have multiples. And the thought, I already was just one baby seemed like enough to move forward with this and actually have more than one. Just didn't seem right, but I will say I kind of wish that I would have done it now. But anyway, I declined that. I also could tell that this doctor was not happy with me not taking all of his advice. Um, but I just continued, and I had conversations with him where he looked at me like I had three heads because I just kept saying, I'm trusting that this is going to happen. And so when it came time for us to do the insemination, I went to the office. We took some blood work, and it was that part of my cycle. They drew some blood, and they sent me home and said, "You need to go pick up this shot. And what you'll have to do is give yourself this shot later on that evening. And it's called a trigger shot, and it triggers ovulation to happen." I had no idea I was going to have to do that. I was not comfortable about giving myself a shot. And I left the office and literally was driving back to my office. I had to go back to work. And I said to God, like, if there is any other way, I don't want to do this shot. And I also went through my head of like, who do I know that could give me this shot? Like, what medical professionals do I know? Because I can't do this. I can't. So I went to the office, stressing a little, and within a few hours, the nurse called me and said, "You need to come back into the office as soon as possible. We got your blood work back, and you're about to ovulate any minute." And I said, "Wait, what about the shot?" And she said, "Oh, you do not need a shot." She's like, "You're about to ovulate, so please come in. We're going to do this." So I went back in the office, and I went into the room. The doctor showed me the little vial of sperm. It was so small, and uh, and we did the procedure. It was so quick, and as he left, I could tell he was basically saying, "Okay, see you later. If you decide that you have more money, maybe I'll see you soon." But he was not hopeful, and he left. I stayed in the room for about 10 minutes, and they recommend that, and I just laid there and held my hand over my womb and got up and I left and I went back to the office and I was given the instruction that in 2 weeks to take the at-home pregnancy test. So the 2 weeks came. I had the date that I was supposed to take the test, and the day before, I believe it was September 26th, September 20 something. That was the 2 week mark. I woke up the day before at like 3 a.m. in the morning. And I just knew that even though it wasn't that day, that was the day I was to take the test. And so I went into the bathroom and I opened up that little pink box and I took out the stick and I peed on it. And so quickly, 2 lines showed up. And I just fell to my knees in the bathroom and thanked God. Like could I couldn't believe it, and yet I could because I just so knew that this was what was to be. And my younger sister um, lived with me, and she still lives with me. And it was too early. I wasn't going to wake her up. It was too early to call anyone. But my parents had retired back in the Philippines, so they were there, and it was evening time in the Philippines. So I called my parents, and my dad answered, and we didn't talk much on the phone. A lot of mainly just texting and emailing. So I'm sure he was a little startled even to get a call from me. Um, and I just said to him, my mom wasn't home. She was actually at church, at a prayer meeting at church. But my dad, um, my dad answered, and I just, I just decided I wanted to tell them together. But he was the first to know, and I said, first, Dad, I need you to know that I'm still single. I don't have a boyfriend. I also have not had sex with anyone, but I am pregnant. I can't even imagine what he was thinking, but there was awkward silence. Um, and then I don't even know if he congratulated. I think he just said, "Okay, well, I'll let your mom know you call." and and I was like, "Okay." And so, sure enough, I did. I did get to talk to her shortly after. She was also shocked, and then after the initial shock and some really random questions. Oh, what did she even ask? She asked me the most random questions. Anyway, um, so her after that, she just expressed how happy she was for me that I get to be a mom, and that meant a lot because I did not let them know what I was planning to do for fear that they would tell me that it wasn't the right thing to do. And because I didn't, if it didn't happen, I didn't want them to be a part of any disappointment. And I should add that, the fear that I had even moving into this was, am I playing God? Like, this isn't the natural, you know, way to be. Like I need to find a husband and then have a baby. And so the good news is I didn't that fear, I didn't feel any judgment from them. So they knew the morning came around, and I told my younger sister, and then I just started to make the phone calls. I called my older sister in California, surprised my best friend at lunch, and everyone was celebrating it. I did have a woman in my life, like an adopted grandmother who 80 some years old, who did not agree and was very forthright with that. She did not agree with the decision that I made, but she is going to continue to love me. And I don't know if she said support me, but at any rate, um, that was probably the worst of it as far as um, any criticism or disapproval of my decision. So I ended up at 10 weeks. I was given the opportunity to do this testing that allows you to determine the sex of the baby. It also tests for genetic conditions, which I was not at all concerned about. I'm like, this is a miracle baby. I had pictured when I had that conversation with my best friend, I had just seen me and a little girl. She actually agreed. She sensed that too. So I wanted confirmation. I had a name picked out and for a girl, and so I I did this blood test. I was told that I would have the results in a week. A week went by. I didn't hear anything. And then it was like the next day, my doctor's office called me and they wanted me to come in. And I just, I knew that something wasn't right. And I couldn't go in until the end of the day. And so my friends at work were just, uh, just really trying to encourage me that everything was going to be okay. And it was okay. So the appointment came. I went into the office and I, it- this is my regular OBGYN office with the nurse practitioner who I've been seeing for 15 years, once a year for my annual well women's exam. So she knows me very well. I walked into the room, waited for her to come in. She opened the door and came in. And as soon as she walked in, I jumped up and I just said, "Is everything okay?" And she looked at me and said, and shook her head and said, "No." And I said, "What is it?" And she said, "Down syndrome." And we just immediately embraced and I just sobbed. And we sat down. She put the paper in front of me that showed the different genetic conditions. Um, and it showed a 9 out of 10 chance that he had Down syndrome. And then it said at the top, it had this symbol that said it was a boy. It was like, what? A boy? That's not at all what I was expecting. I truly was just almost shocked. Um, and so um, I cried so many tears. I'm pretty sure I went through a Kleenex, a whole box of Kleenex. And she she had said, she assured me that he was really strong because oftentimes when babies have any kind of genetic variants, they don't make it. So she's like, he's strong, he's here still, and and she knew I was keeping him, like that was never on the table, so she never had to ask that, and I knew that. Um, and so before we left, when I was finally able to compose myself, she did ask, she's like, "Do you want to hear his heart?" And so she got out that tool, and we got to listen to his heartbeat. And I left, and I made lots of phone calls and cried lots of tears. And I'm grateful that I didn't spend too much time focused on that. I did allow myself to grieve um, how differently it was going to be than I expected. And it wasn't a confirmed diagnosis, but I didn't do what would have been required to confirm it. I mean, it showed a 9 out of 10 chance. Um, and as the pregnancy went on, as I had the ultrasounds, it had more markers. The good news was the ultrasounds weren't showing any major concerns, like with his heart, which can happen with babies with Down syndrome, or any other issues that would require any kind of prolonged hospital stay after he was born. So I was hopeful about that, um, and um, and just prepared that he may have Down syndrome, but also like I don't know. So I had hoped for a natural birth. The prenatal specialist wanted me to induce at like 38 weeks, I think even 37 weeks. I wanted to wait. By 39 weeks, I was not at all dilated. And at that point, the best thing, my amniotic fluid was dropping, and it was just the safest thing was to induce. So we scheduled, for me to come into the hospital, and went in, and unfortunately, the way things played out, it ended up being an incredibly traumatic birth that that truly it was an emergency C-section, where it all happened so fast. I mean, I was literally pushing in one moment, and next thing you know, a doctor is coming in, and my best friends told me this later. Apparently, that she pushed Matthew right back in me, and it was like all hands on deck. People are coming in, and they're like, "We're going to the ER," and I'm having to make the call in that moment of whether or not I'm going to have my sister or my best friend in there. Um, and I made the call to have my best friend, and so she's literally part of, I mean, they're just rushing me down the hallway. I'm gripping her hand, asking her if I'm going to lose my baby because nothing, of course, everything's happening so fast. Nothing is explained to you. And as it turns out, she wasn't even able to be with me in the OR, and they had to put me completely under. And so I woke up. All I know is I woke up looking up at the lights in the OR. I heard some voices around me. One of them said that I'm sure I actually, the first thing I asked was, is he alive? And they told me that he was in the NICU and that he's strong, and he had he had my eyes, and and they eventually wheeled me out of there. I was just so drugged up, just super nauseous, and I had to wait a while before I could meet him. But I eventually did get wheeled in, and my other best friend was actually able to go in with me. She's a photographer, and I'm just so grateful because it was with her iPhone, but she just captured the moments when we were first able to meet, which I I remember being just so, I was still the anesthesia was still in me, so I remember feeling disappointed that I wasn't like fully connected with my emotions. Um, and the beauty in that my best friend could document is because now, you know, after the fact, when I watch that video, I can I can see just the immediate connection that we had, and and how he immediately responded to my voice, like he was waiting um, for me. Um, and so, unfortunately, I thought we wouldn't have any prolonged hospital stay, but he did end up being in the hospital for 2 months after he was born, which was so hard to leave the hospital without him, and to be without him that first 2 months. But eventually, he did come home, and and a couple months later, it was about 5 months old. Through Instagram, this website that does inspirational stories called Love What Matters reached out to me to share our story, and and I got to do that, and um, it's great. They shared it. I got a lot of a lot of reads, and it was so encouraging and sweet to just read all the comments of strangers, just so inspired by our story, doting over Matthew, just encouraged by my strength, and you know, having him on my own, and um, yeah, just really enjoyed seeing, and I should say, just our immediate. I mean, we were just so well bolstered in love and support, and then from that standpoint, it was just such a beautiful thing. And the story, Matthew is now 2.5 years old, and the story has been shared. They often reshare it, and interestingly, with some recent shares, given the climate of the I should say the states of America in the last 18 months, I I opened up the comments to, you know, start feeling encouraged and supported. and started reading comments that were very much not supportive and encouraging, but incredibly judgmental and negative. And how dare she think you don't need a man to have a baby, and writing off men, which is hilarious because if they read my story, it wasn't that. And and something that I feared, that was shared, um, was that it is incredibly unfair to bring a child into the world and not have him be raised by a mother and father. And I specifically actually worked for a ministry. It was called the Marriage and Family Association of Marriage and Family Ministries. And that was very much a message that they promoted, which is why I was sensitive to that. That it is just so key for children to have a mother and father, because if they don't, they are just going to suffer in life, and just not be it's not a healthy thing. So they said that Matthew will suffer. He's suffering. So here's a video of Matthew suffering.
It's a remix and I'm coming with that bow bow bow. Pretty I'ma hit him with that bow bow bow. Can't catch me slipping, I'ma up it when I bow bow bow. Bands, I throw them bands and make them dance.
Here is Matthew and Michele. Matthew! Hi, big boy! Oh my God, how I love Matthew! Are you trying to reach out and kiss me? Is that what you're doing? Hey, big boy! Hi, big boy! Oh my goodness. Oh my God, here are some of your comments from the virtual pews. Tucker's like, get it, baby. She's talking to you, Matthew. She's talking to Matthew. Terry's like, go, Matthew.
That was the first time he's got to hear his story. He was listening the whole time.
He was. I saw him behind his. I could look at you. You're still dancing.
He's like, yeah, I heard my story.
Oh, Michele, Matthew getting it in. Michele, listen, that story is so powerful. Thank you.
I was crying again. You probably saw it.
James says a star. He is absolutely a superstar. My mom says, hi, Matthew. Tekka says, what a heartwarming story. Thank you so much, Michele. You know what? It really was a beautiful story. And I couldn't tell everyone that I didn't want to like ruin anything. But like one of the things that Michele and I were trying to coordinate was how to have this experience and pull Matthew into it. And so it required that she was like, okay, look, if I try to tell this story with Matthew, he ain't gonna sit there. He ain't gonna sit through it. But it was beautiful. Like I can see everyone backstage. And so I could see that he was really attentive. Like, so I was like, okay, Matthew's going to be running all over. And he wasn't. You see yourself. You hear us talking about you, big boy.
Yes.
You hear us.
I swear, this kid knows so much more than I mean.
Michele, he is such a gift. My mom is like, do your dance, Matthew. Dr. Lester says powerful on so many levels. Absolutely, Dr. Lester. Absolutely. Yeah, Terry is saying nicely done. And then Tech is like, what a happy baby. Nice job. And even with that, Michele, isn't it interesting how even like with religious groups that it's like they posit like no, you have to, like, every child deserves to be born. And then on the other hand, they're like, it's unselfish. Like, how selfish of you to have a child without a father. It's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you like,
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, what prompted you to read those comments like that second time?
Well, like I said, it was always like fun to like just hear strangers just so inspired and like, this is amazing. Oh, you too, just. And so when I opened it, it was probably 6 months ago or so, I was shocked because I just never seen anything like that. So, and then there were multiple, which of course, the trolls just kind of feed on each other in those comments. So I was careful I could have gone on, but I just didn't want it to take me down.
Yeah.
And so even since it's been posted, reshared since that, I have other friends that see it, and they've like told me that it was reshared again, and yeah, there are some comments, and they've even. I remember one mom even told me, she's like, I went in and defended you and some, and so I was like, okay, thanks.
And I love the friends who stand up and defend you. It's like, I want to cancel it.
I'm excited because he feels our energy.
Look at you. Hi, big boy.
Mama's excited.
Hi, big boy. He is so excited. He is so excited. Yeah, it's like, trying to be with that, trying to, take those trolls to task. I feel like that makes my teeth white.
Yeah.
When they're, attacking my friends or someone that I love, Rochelle says, our entry into the world is totally up to God. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like that. There he goes. No, and I even listening to this story, I prayed 20 years for a husband, and Matthew, like, it was just this dream, this something God put in me by the beginning of time. And when it surfaced, within 3 months, I was pregnant. Like,
wow.
You started then. So just being reminded, I feel so encouraged hearing the story, because it's just so clear that this is just the way it was always to be for me. Like,
the way it was always supposed to be. And that's the thing. It's like, we write these really good on paper plans. Yeah. But this is the way it was supposed to be. Our entry into the world is totally up to God. I love that, Rochelle. Dr. Lester says, such an important lesson about faith, gender, and following your path.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And even that, the Song of Solomon's verse that I was like holding on to again for my husband, my soul has found the one, how does it go? I'm not great at it, but my soul's found the one that I love, or that scripture.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I now know, like, Matthew that's who it is. Like, it wasn't his husband. I'm like, oh, it was him. It was always him.
It was always Matthew.
Let me go grab him, because I think he's up to no good.
Okay.
See, this is why we had to record the story.
Oh my gosh. He was like, Mommy's occupied. Let me go get into some stuff. Dr. Lamb says we don't have to do it like the patriarchy tells us to.
Amen. Yes. What I love about that is I've said this to friends since. I'm like, I kicked the patriarchy in the face, and I didn't even know it when I was doing it.
Second's like, yes, all of that. Absolutely on your terms. Absolutely. And isn't it interesting how when you leaned into that, like what felt real and right for you, we found God's will for you.
Totally. Exactly.
We found the purple will. Yeah.
I need that reminder for right now with just some transition in my life. Like, it's mind blowing. It's just so mind blowing how we have our plan. We ask God to make our plan happen.
Yeah.
I was waiting a long time for my plan to happen.
And I could not imagine you still waiting for somebody else to give you this child when God was like, okay, you know what? Matthew is mine to give you.
Exactly. And Matthew means gift from God. Which
absolutely. And that's also why
I call it the immaculate conception.
Yes.
And it was so funny when you're like, Dad, I've not had I've not had sex and also I'm pregnant. I was like, the immaculate conception. We're talking about you. And my mom says, typical boy into everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Well, Matthew, I love you so much. I'm so excited that Auntie gets to see you. And if you want to watch more of these amazing videos, Matthew and Michele, they are so extremely well documented on Michelle's Instagram account. So you can follow her at Michele Elizaga, and you'll be able to see all of Matthew's beautiful and amazing shenanigans.
Exactly. You said it. Exactly, that was the word you were going to use. Yeah.
But there was something else that you had said that I realized here that I posted, and it must have been from the video,
This was
because said this was the hardest and holiest experience. And I think that's when we were talking after the recording. I think that was one of the things that you had described.
I told the story. That's even the first time I've ever called. I always say it was hard, but it truly was holy. Yeah. Being able to share, which, and again, I just barely scratched the surface of the way God was in every detail. Like it was the holiest experience.
Yes. My mom says, I'm not religious. I just love the Lord. Yeah, that's it. That's all of it. That is all of it. Well, again, if y'all want to see more of what Michele and Matthew are up to, please follow her on Instagram. Matthew, I love you. I love you. Mwah. Mwah. Mwah.
Do it.
Yes. Okay. Now you are the only little person that's allowed in this adult space.
Did you hear that?
Yes. But you are my treasured possession, beautiful little person. So glad we got to meet.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put y'all backstage. Thank you for sharing, Michele. This is beautiful. Don't leave me. I'm just put you backstage.
Of course.
Okay. Now listen, virtual pews. I told y'all trust me. And then this is what y'all get. Thank you for trusting me. And I pray that you are getting something from all of these featured storytellers. This whole season has been lit. Ooh, okay, so before we leave, there are 4 things that we do on Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine. The first is that we offer a public lament. And so based on Michelle's story today, I lament those who are still very much driven, as Dr. Lamb called it, by the patriarchy. People who are trying to decide our agenda for us, our timing, the way that we do our life. And we don't know that there is a different way. And that way is simply listening to the intentions of our own heart. I lament that we all have the gifts of these insights, but we don't all the time trust that. I lament that. Here's my prophetic hope. My prophetic hope is that just as Michele made decisions that felt real and right for her, there were people from the outside on both sides of this discussion that had a position. But ultimately, she just chose to listen to her own life. My prophetic hope is that you will do the absolute same, whatever are those impossible decisions that you may face. I pray that you would listen to your life and that you too would experience the miracle of what that looks like. Gonna kick patriarchy in its face. Let's do it. But you have to be the one to make that move, make that bold move. My energizing memory for today is actually the picture of Michele and Matthew. When she first posted this picture, this is her after the surgery when she's first meeting Matthew. And I love that picture of grace and of just this boundless love. It's just kind of all wrapped up in that experience, just holding that precious one. I am my beloved's, and my beloved's is mine. Is kind of the Jewish way of referencing that Song of Solomon text. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. I love that picture. Her energizing memory, or her experience, is my energizing memory. I look at this picture and I know that all is well, and all manner of things. The Lord is present.
And the fourth and final thing that we talk about in Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine is giving. And here's what I'm asking you to give. I am asking you to give yourself permission to listen to your life, to know that there will always be voices and opinions and other folk who are going to trust what's convenient or even try to get you to settle for what's shoddy, get you to settle for the conventional. I pray that you would simply listen to your own life and that you would give yourself permission to do that. Flex some new muscles. Listen to your life. Give yourself permission to take that journey. I promise you, there are some amazing experiences that are in line for you. All right. Before we close out, let me go back to the virtual pews. Terry says, waiting on God's plan is never easy, but always worth it. Amen, Terry. Amen. Amen. And Dr. Lamb and Mom are just sending love here. All right. So next week, I will be in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm going to be there for Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine, the Blue Christmas event at City Square Church. So if you are in Phoenix, please come through. It's Sunday, 6 p.m. And it's all like the information will be on my website. And you should also be able to go to City Square Church's either Facebook page or their website, and you will always see us there. Always see Dr. Lamb is like, woo! Dr. Lamb is already there. I cannot wait. I am super, super excited. So, okay, Phoenix, meet me there. Now that's the live event on Sunday. I will be on in the studio Saturday at Vespers as well, but that will be just an abbreviated time. I'm going to be coming to you live from the it's a retreat center in Carefree, Arizona. I'll be there wrapping up a project that I've been on. I told y'all at the beginning of the year that I was selected as a Seeds Project Fellow, and so we're having our cohorts end of the fellowship gathering. We're ending our time together at a spiritual retreat. And so I'm looking forward to that. But as soon as the retreat is done, I then go live with Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine at Vespers, same time. So we'll meet here next Saturday, but in the virtual studio. But if you're in Phoenix next Sunday, make plans to meet me there. All right. Dr. Lester's like, yay! I forgot Dr. Lester's in Arizona. So many of my favorite people are there. I'm like, oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. It's going to be so awesome. Okay. So with that, our blessing and our sending. A friend of mine is working on a book project, and in the book, she's telling a story about an older woman at the church that she grew up in. And she would always yell out, who wouldn't serve a God like that? Who wouldn't serve a God like that? I pray that what you have received today, with all of the ways that God gets imaged, with all of the ways in which we give faith, the faith walk, a relationship with God as God is particularized in the person of Jesus Christ, all of the ways in which that gets a bad name, a bad rep. I pray that God would meet you where you are, and that God would not leave you where you found, but that you would hear that still small voice, that you would simply listen to your life and know that God is saying, hey, I'm here. I got you. And all is well in all manner of things. May it be so. Ashe, Selah, so be it. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you next week at Jesus, Jazz, and Dessert Wine at Vespers.
My funny Valentine, sweet comet Valentine, you